what the best ways to do things strategically for your business,
Right.
especially at its most infant stages.
Right. And I like what you said about, at the infant stage, because that's also when it's less intimidating.
Exactly.
It's less intimidating. And you being a teacher, you can, kind of guide them and teach them what they need to know so they make your job easier and their life easier, really.
Right, exactly.
Right. So to start at the
Exactly.
beginning. So all of you entrepreneurs, who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs or who's just started your business, you want to sit down with someone like Korey and talk to them about what your adventure is, because, starting your own business is an adventure.
It is.
Starting, your adventure so that you have all the pieces in place to kind of help you so that you don't get in financial difficulty at that point when it's April 15th and
Right.
everyone's clamoring to get to the post office to get their taxes in, and they're ringing their accountant's phone off the hook saying, okay, I know you've been calling me for 6 months, but I got all my stuff together now and here I come, and it's like the 12th and you're like, really? And you want me to do what? How about we
by
file
then
an
it's already too
extension?
late.
It's too late. Like, let's file you an extension and hope you don't owe too much money.
Yeah.
Right?
And I can say from experience, too, that whenever I started my own venture, it was, no matter what, it was going to be intimidating. I talked with an attorney and a CPA at the beginning, and I didn't want to. I'm even good friends with them, and I didn't really want to hear what they had to say because I was just kind of scared. I was scared of what they were going to say and what I was going to have to do. And it was the best thing that I could have done. It
Exactly.
was such a weight off my shoulders, and it was so much not as scary as what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
It actually made my life way easier than I was going to make it without talking to them.
Right. It really allows you to, run that gauntlet and having at least an idea about where all the landmines are buried. They can just kind of say, well, look, you might want to decide to make these decisions instead of those decisions if you want to, incorporate or create an LLC or sole proprietorship, whatever it is that you want to do. They can really give you, some direction and some good advice that's always a much better idea to have than not have, and just kind of, winging it on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Because, to define or to just read the definition of what an LLC is versus a corporation versus an S Corp, you can sit down with that paperwork in front of you and read through it, as a layperson and make that decision. But if you don't really know from an expert the repercussions behind each one, you're setting yourself up for failure in a lot of cases. You might squeeze by and get lucky, but just being able to read the definition and understand it for what the definition is worth isn't the reality of the tax liabilities that are attached to each one.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. I actually get several clients who call me and say, well, why would I pay you to set up my corporation or my LLC or something along those lines, my sole proprietorship, versus going online to one of these different,
Yes.
Online incorporations for $99. And I say, well, I've never used one of those services. I know that they're out there and they're probably fine. The only difference is that I don't know if they're going to be able to sit down with you and give you the insight that you really need and allow you the opportunity to really explain what your vision is.
Right.
And I don't necessarily know if they're going to step back and say, okay, well, Jimmy, if that's really what you want to do, it's probably a better idea that we go with a corporation because of what your long-term goals are.
Right.
What you want to do is fine for now, but in 3 years, if the business takes off like you hope it will, you're going to want to wind up dealing with a corporation, because if you're going to sell stock or if you intend on selling stock or something along those lines, pardon me, it's probably a better move for you to go this way than go that way.
Right. I think also something that people don't include when they talk to their accountant is their dreams and aspirations. Like, I want to buy a house. We're going to decide to have kids in 2 or 3 years. You should tell them the whole framework, versus
Absolutely.
just little incremental pieces, because I know I get this a lot too in mortgage banking. I get people who, didn't think about the fact that they wanted to buy a house, and so they do certain things with their taxes that put them in a position where now their income isn't enough to purchase a home.
True.
When if they had told their CPA ahead of time what their end goal was, he would have prepared them differently for
Absolutely.
that end goal, because, with the way things are now in mortgage banking, there are programs out there, that will help you if you are in that situation. But for the most part, they're limited. So you really need to be able to show your income at some point. So it's always good to let your CPA know what your hopes, dreams, and aspirations are, so they can help you in the right way, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And just a side note, you really don't need a CPA. You can find any number of excellent accountants and bookkeepers and, maybe even EAs who can, give you some of that advice.
Okay, what's an EA?
Yeah.
Enrolled agent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, enrolled agents are people that, are also tax professionals who are also allowed to go to bat for you when you've got to deal with the IRS.
So you said they are an enrolled agent?
Yes.
Okay, and so do they work for like a tax preparing company, or who do they?
Enrolled agents can prepare taxes.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is that, like I said, they can go to the IRS on your behalf and discuss for them.
Okay.
They aren't necessarily their own, team of
okay.
ninjas or anything like that.
Okay. Sometimes you need the ninjas when you're dealing with the
Sometimes,
IRS.
absolutely.
Yeah. So what's the difference? So why would you hire a CPA versus not?
It's actually a good question. CPAs have actually been certified.
Exactly.
They've actually been certified. They've gone through an extraordinarily rigorous series of exams dealing with how financial statements should be prepared and calculated and reported, audit, all kinds of different things they have to have in place. And there's also CE, which is continuing education requirements.
That's right.
That tax preparers and accountants have to do,
right.
which keeps them what's supposedly on the forefront of how things are developing and changing.
Right, because things change.
Absolutely.
People. The IRS changes things in the middle of the night that you don't know about.
Exactly.
And you get up the next day and your whole strategy has just been blown out of the water.
Well, and laws and everything, and even with the health insurance thing that's been happening for the past few years, and how front and center, quote unquote, that has been in the news.
Right.
Like a lot of people still don't even understand what is going on there.
Well,
a lot of people don't know that they're gonna have to pay a penalty now if they don't have health insurance, or what that penalty is going to be, or what it is. And I know that I was in that same boat at one point, and it was like, oh shoot, like I guess I really should get my own health insurance then.
Right.
And yeah, it's just that things are constantly changing, so of course.
Right.
And that's actually an excellent example, because the insurance requirements now are such where there are going to be penalties imposed if people don't already have it.
Yeah.
And I get emailed almost every day something saying, hey, make sure that you know about the new developing insurance requirements.
Right.
Make sure that you've taken these courses and this satisfies your continuing education responsibilities.
Right.
If you take these classes that keep you up to speed on, what those new developments are.
Right, because Elizabeth and I were talking about that, because, what you hear on the news and what's actually happening are on two different levels.
Yes.
They're just sensationalizing the fact that you have to have insurance. They're not telling you the in-depth, reasons and the things that are going to happen if you don't have it. They're just sensationalizing the fact that you need to do it.
Right.
The same with your taxes. When tax laws come out, no one talks about that. It's only sensationalized if a celebrity gets thrown in jail, or right. Or they wind up, the IRS, snatches back, their house or something. Unless something big happens where it can be sensationalized, you don't know about things like that. So that's why in my opinion, having a CPA in your corner is the right thing to do. And like you said, a tax preparer, they can assist you also, but someone who's getting those updates and that continued education, because my tax, me paying my taxes can't be reliant upon someone who took a few classes and only knows a little bit more than I do.
Right.
I want them to be abreast of what the changes are, so that 2 years from now, I'm not being penalized for something that the person who prepared my taxes didn't know.
Exactly.
Right?
You're absolutely right.
And that happens. Like it's happened to me in the past. Years ago, my tax person, wasn't a CPA, not that he had to be, and so I'm not knocking those who aren't, but, you know, there were some laws that came out that precluded some of the changes that he made on my tax returns, and I didn't know, and I got hit with a stiff tax penalty.
Right.
And you sign your tax returns saying that you know what this person is doing. Right. So they don't go back to the person who prepared your taxes. They come for the money from you, the person who had their taxes prepared. Right. So that's why when you said, you know, you're the only one with a parachute out, you're right.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you've signed it under penalty of perjury.
Under penalty of
to
perjury.
To the best of your knowledge, sure and correct.
Well, I think there's this huge trend too, right? Well, not right now. It's probably been around for a long time, but where people are like, well, why can't I just do it myself? And I know that I see that in my industry a lot, and I'm sure that you do, and I'm sure that we all do.
Right.
But I don't know. At the end of the day, to me, I'm like, what are you going to do? You're going to go to law school and so that you can defend yourself in your own business, and you're going to know all this stuff about your bookkeeping and accounting so that you don't get hit with anything with the IRS. Right. And then you're gonna, I don't know, like, and then on top of that, you're gonna do all the back end stuff with the admin and everything, and then you're gonna actually hone your craft and get better at what you're doing, and then you're also gonna market yourself and be a marketing expert too. Like, you can't possibly do all of it.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, a lot of what you just said is absolutely right, but a lot of times people that can do it themselves just need to take maybe a half hour worth of time to learn what they have to do and go in and do it themselves. A lot of people, you know, college kids, 19, 20, 22 perhaps, don't have a lot of sophisticated things going on with their financial profile.
Right, sure. Exactly.
So you can just do a 1040 EZ and you can just follow along. Okay, well, you know, what's your income? Well, look at your W-2 and, you know, put that number there.
Yeah.
Well, how much was taken out for federal? Well, it's on your W-2. Put it right here.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's just a matter of, you know.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did my own stuff before I had my own business and everything, but it's just, you know, the more complicated things get.
Exactly. Now
you really just can't keep up with all of it.
That's true. Now, as people typically get older, they start buying homes, and there's, you know, interest, mortgage interest deductions, and medical, and kids, and, you know, shares of stock that people have bought, and Social Security. You know, it can become a job.
Right.
You know, and at that stage, it's a good idea to find someone who can at least look at it and see what you've done, which goes back to having someone who's familiar with, you know, who you are, what you do, your background, and actually what your goals going forward are. You know, and you know the softwares now, the Intuit products, the TurboTaxes, and all those guys, they're generally sufficient for a lot of people. I think I might have just killed myself for
I don't know about
this
that,
upcoming tax season.
No, because those
like,
engines are okay, but I mean, like you said, unless your tax return is super simple, that's, in my opinion, not the way to go.
Right. You know, maybe I'm a little more, I don't know, familiar with a lot of the terminologies and things.
Exactly.
So maybe because,
right.
maybe because I'm not necessarily the most lay of the people who would pick that stuff up, it might be a little easier for me to, you know, pick up and know what's going on instead of someone who's completely green. So
I know, like, I wouldn't.
Please allow my retraction on that one.
Okay, good. 'Cause I don't know. I wouldn't even begin to, even if I was just a W-2, and not to say just, but even if my tax returns were not complicated. You know, I don't know that I would trust myself to do my own taxes. It's always worth it to pay someone to do your taxes than it is to not.